Hey guys, Prowl1701 here, and today we're going to be talking about underrated Doctor Who stories. I'm going to do a series here. I'm going to stretch it over 3 videos where basically I pick what I think is the most underrated story for each Doctor that I've seen, because a lot of classic Who I haven't seen every story from every Doctor, especially the first Doctor. I've only seen about 6 of his stories, so from the episodes I've seen, which the other Doctors I've seen at least half of all of their work, so most of them more than that. Tom Baker's, I think there's only 3 of his stories I haven't seen. Been a Doctor Who fan a long time. So, this video we're going to look at the first, second, third, and fourth Doctors. And I'm going to pick what I think is their most underrated story from the ones I've seen. The first Doctor, I've only seen about 6 of his stories, and I'm going to say the Ark. I like the Ark a lot. It was the first one I ever got on DVD. And I actually do need to watch it again. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I really enjoy it because it has a nice twist about halfway through. It's a 4-parter, if I remember correctly. And the end of part 2 has a really nice twist that kind of turns everything on its head. And it's something that, it's nice to see a twist in the middle of a story instead of some kind of twist at the end of a story like Moffat likes to do that usually ruins the story. But to see something as big of a twist and as big as a upend of things kind of halfway through the story and how that affects the rest of the story is really neat, and that really helped sell me on it. But it's basically about a group of humans and a group of another race on a ship, and it's a really good story if you haven't seen the Ark, because I never really hear people talk about the Ark, and I really enjoy the Ark a lot. It's one of only 3 surviving stories from season 3, or 3 completely surviving stories from season 3, and I really enjoy it. Moving on to number 2, Patrick Troutman. I haven't seen every Troutman story. Most people haven't seen every Troutman story. I'm going to say the most underrated is the Crotons. I don't understand why the Crotons gets the hate it gets. It's Robert Holmes. And I don't think Robert Holmes really writes a bad script. Now, some of the realizations of his stuff isn't done the best, like Power of Kroll is terrible, but the script for it is good. It's just realized very badly. But the Crotons, to me, it's a nice script. It's kind of a simple script, but it's a nice script. It's a nice 4-parter. Now, if it had been like 6 parts, it probably would have dragged. But I think being 4 parts is good for it. And I like the fact that every episode survives for it. Because I really like Troutman is as I've mentioned before, Troutman's a very physical actor and a very physical doctor, and I think a lot of that can be lost in the animations. Like, personally, if I'm ranking stories, I rank Crotons higher than Fury simply because I think Fury's animation isn't that great. I like some of the animations, but I was very disappointed with Fury's animation. There's a scene where Troutman has his hands on his hips in it, and I don't ever remember Troutman really just putting his hands on his hips, standing like that. So if I do like a ranking video, Crotons ranks higher than Fury, even though Fury is a much better story, and the surviving footage of Fury is amazing, but the animation really brings that story down for me. Whereas the Crotons, since the original episodes exist, that does give it a bit of a boost. It's a fun romp. I love the interactions between Zoe and the Doctor in it. That's really nice. I love that little bit when he's sitting in a chair. Go away. No, wait. What's this do? No, come back. No, I figured it out. And then she's telling him to press the button. He's got the thing, and she just presses the button. That's a lovely scene. The first time I watched it, I had to rewind it and watch it again. It had me laughing so hard. And I like Zoe a lot, too, because I like that the Doctor has a companion that, while not his intellectual equal, is still more intellectual. Since she is from the future, she's more intellectual than we're used to seeing with him. She has a much better understanding of a lot of things than most of his companions, even in the modern series. So it's nice to see a smart companion with him. It's one of the reasons I like Liz Shaw as well, a very intelligent companion. I like to see somebody that is more on the Doctor's level. Not on the Doctor's level, but more on the Doctor's level. That's really nice for me. So I really like the Crotons. I think it's extremely underrated. And if you haven't seen it, give it a watch. For the third Doctor, and I've seen about 2/3 of his stories, and I love the third Doctor a lot. I'm going to say Day of the Daleks, but there's a little asterisk there. I'm talking about the special edition that was released in 2011 with the enhanced effects. Of all the Doctor Who stories that have had the kind of special edition treatment where they've gotten new CGI effects or new effects to make the effects better, to make the story better. This is the one that I think benefits the most. This is the one where the improved effects really bolster the story, because Day of the Daleks is a fantastic script. It is. It is a great script. I love the ideas in it. I love the time travel mechanics and the cause and effect and the cause and consequences of the time travel. It's a wonderful story with some pretty good casting. The controller in the future overacts a little bit, but I can look past that. But the improvements, like in the original version, the guns don't actually fire. The screen would just flash white, and the guns wouldn't actually fire. The Dalek voices were atrocious in the original. I mean, that is one of the things that hold the original version of Day of the Daleks back, is the Dalek voices were so bad. And then that final battle, it's very obvious they only had about 3 Dalek props to work with. But with the special edition, they fixed all of that. All of the guns now actually shoot laser beams. You see people getting hit and basically disintegrating when they get hit by them. And the laser beams look really good. Pretty impressive, actually. More on par with something from the modern series. Well, the early seasons of the modern series. They've redone the Dalek voices, which is probably the biggest improvement. They've actually got Nicholas Briggs, who does the Daleks in the modern series. And he did record his voices, I believe, on analog equipment instead of digital equipment to have more of that classic sound to them. But they sound amazing. Completely justifies the Daleks being in this story now that they sound properly like Daleks. And then they've actually shot new footage on old cameras of that final battle scene and incorporated that into the episode. But since it was shot with old cameras, it looks like it was shot back in the 70s. And it really helps bolster that final attack in the 20th century. And it really turns this whole story around. And because of this, Day of the Daleks is easily my favorite Pertwee Dalek story, and probably one of my top 5 Dalek stories in the classic series because of this. If you haven't seen the special edition, check it out. It's much improved over the original version. And the 4th Doctor, if you've watched my channel, you probably already know it's going to be Revenge of the Cybermen. I love Revenge of the Cybermen. I do not understand why this episode gets the hate it does. I love it. I'm not going to go on it at length because I've discussed it a million times before. It's the only Cyberman story in the 70s, the best decade of Doctor Who ever. And it's good, and it's the only time we see Tom Baker fight the Cybermen. And I love that he's not intimidated by them at all. He's snarky with them. We are destined to be rulers of the cosmos. No, I don't think so somehow. He is not scared of them at all. He stands his ground with them, and I absolutely adore that. And I like the new enhanced effects they created for it too on the Season 12 box set. The story was already great. I already loved it. But I love the new effects for it, especially right at the end when the station's hurtling toward the planet. Those effects look really good. That's another one. I really think it's not as well regarded simply because the internet seems to say it's not really well regarded. My advice is watch it for yourself and form your own opinion of it, because at least it's not like the modern series where pretty much the Cybermen always get made out to be somebody else's bitch. You know, they're actually their own villain in this. And there's a nice political subplot going on with the aliens on the planet as well that I really enjoy. It's a really nice story. I'm also going to give a mention to Shada here, because I feel like Shada does not get the attention it deserves. Now, I don't hear Shada mentioned as a bad story. Again, when I say underrated, I don't necessarily mean that people think it's bad. Just people don't get quite the credit it used to. Because I love Shada. I think Shada is one of the top 10. I mean, if I do a top 10 list of Tom Baker stories, Shada's in it. Probably in the top 5. I love Shada. I mean, it's Douglas Adams, and I love Douglas Adams. I do. I've read all 5 of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. I love City of Death. I love his type of humor, because I get his type of humor. I sometimes think some people can't follow his humor. I think some people just aren't intellectual enough to follow his wit. Like when the professor, the doctor, and Romana are all sitting in his office discussing the way they're discussing time. Some people don't seem to like that. They think it's silly. But for me, that's Time Lord small talk. You know, we don't get it because we're humans, but You know, how often do we see Time Lords sitting together just having small talk? Keep in mind, most of the time the Doctor doesn't have a Time Lord companion like he does with Romana, and he's old friends basically with the Professor. So that to them, that's just casual small talk, is the way I look at it. And I think there's just a lot of intelligence and wit. I love the fact that the Professor is extremely forgetful. If they ever do a spin-off of just the Professor, I would love that. Me and one of my friend Ian both love the Professor. We would love to just watch a little mini-series of just the Professor teaching. That would be great. Well, I remember when I'm watching the same actor playing the Keeper in the Keeper of Troutman, I'm sitting there going, why is he not offering me some tea? I want my tea. And I like that too when he's over there trying to remember why aren't you looking for the book, Professor? What do you think we're trying to do? Maybe it was red, maybe it was green, and Tom Baker's just like, I absolutely love Shada. And the animated scenes are really well done. I love the animation style they use. I love that they got the original voice actors. I love some of the dramatic shots that were done in the animation that couldn't have been done with live action, like with K9 firing his laser. And I love that scene when he's with, I forget his name, the human male that's in the story. And they're talking about how fast the ship can go, 70,000 light years. That's incredible. Tom Baker's like, yes, incredibly slow. And he starts reconfiguring the ship to act as a TARDIS. Just the way Tom Baker does, yes, incredibly slow. So Shada is an amazing story. I mean, probably one of my top 10 favorite Doctor Who stories of the classic series, period. And I think while it's regarded fairly well, I don't think it's regarded as well as it should be. I really think it's a standout story. And the location work at Cambridge is top-notch. I absolutely adore when Doctor Who films in places like that, like they did in Paris and City of Death. Anyway, those are the kind of most underrated stories, I think, for the first 4 Doctors. In the next video, we'll explore Doctors 5 through 9. Click the like button, click the subscribe button. Check out my main channel, Prowl1701, Prowl1701, where I talk about all things Star Wars. Click the bell for notifications, and thank you for watching.